And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Welcome to this Thursday's aviation segment, and we've got for Friday morning IFR here due to blowing snow for the Arctic coast into the North Slope there down toward the crest of the Brooks Range. Also IFR out here over the Bering Sea, extending southeastward in toward Atka Island and another branch there for the Unalaska Island area. And looks like reaching False Pass, almost there. And then a break behind that with some VFR. The interior, central interior, looking pretty good. VFR right out into the northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, down to Nunivak Island, and down into northeast Bristol Bay. Some IFR along the western slopes of the eastern Alaska Range. IFR slipping on up into portions of the Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, and the extreme northern panhandle tomorrow with VFR down to the south, so kind of marginal along the coast. And then for the day on Friday for the afternoon hours Friday, look for this marginal VFR to come inland to a certain extent there, and the IFR up to the north expanding a little bit. Still IFR here for the North Gulf Coast, up along the slopes of the Alaska Range. North Slope, Arctic coast, portions of the North Slope where the winds are will be IFR up there due to blowing snow. And some IFR there near or just west of Cape Neuenam. Another small area here over the south central Bering Sea. And then a weak front pushing a narrow band in toward the far western Aleutians. For the afternoon, you can see that band comes eastward there, almost making it to Adak and then extending back across Shimianat-2. Mostly marginal over the Bering Sea here with areas of VFR remaining over the interior, but marginal VFR right up to the Alaska Range. IFR for the morning hours Saturday for Prince William Sound there, and staying along the Arctic coast as well. And the panhandle looks to be mostly marginal now. For the afternoon, IFR for the southern southeast coast, excuse me, to Kodiak Island, southern Kenai Peninsula, and again the western Alaska Range, and some lower conditions up here to the northwest, and a big area of IFR now setting up over Adak and Atka. Passes Anutuvik and Adigan, marginal VFR at times tomorrow. Lake Clark and Merrow, though, look VFR. Rainy, marginal. Windy, marginal VFR, but better conditions on the northern entrance. That same forecast good for Isabel and Mentasta as well. Tanita, marginal VFR, and for Portage, pretty good chance of IFR for the day. Friday, Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels here at the surface, kind of pushing northward here out over the northwest Bering Sea and then southward to the Alaska Peninsula, up along the North Gulf Coast and then down the panhandle there. Moving on to the icing graphic. Possible considerable moderate rime icing here along the North Gulf Coast, and lighter or less of a chance here extending up in toward the Susitna Valley area, Kenai Peninsula. And then the only other area out here pushing in with that weak frontal system, bringing a chance of some icing into the far western Aleutians. Jet stream here, we've got upper low extending westward here, pushing westward, should be over Seward Peninsula tomorrow. To the south of that, westerly flow up to 70 knots across southern Alaska. A milder branch here coming up from the south and kind of almost linking up with this area, but getting pushed off to the east 90 knots there across Kodiak Island, and then diving southeastward across the Queen Charlottes. And for 9,000 feet, again up cold upper low here pulling westward right over the lower Yukon River Valley tomorrow. Westerlies turn south to southwest up to 50 knots across the Copper River Basin, and strong 55 to 60 knot winds there along the Arctic coast, much lighter over the southeast coast, and then looking at 45 knot winds here out over the western Aleutians. Down to 3,000 feet, about the same here, 45 knot winds for the western Aleutians, higher pressure, light winds, southern Bering Sea, and the central eastern Aleutians, right into the southern interior here, but easterlies up to 50 to 55 knots there along the Arctic coast. Another band here running at about 40 knots there from the upper Yukon Valley westward across the Koyukuk, Kobuk, Kotzebue area, and across the Seward Peninsula, and then a small area of 50 knot winds along the North Gulf Coast. Turbulence-wise here, northern panhandle right on up into the Yukon River area there around Fort Yukon-Chokyitzik. Considerable moderate turbulence there, and also along the Arctic coast here, as well as the northwest part of the state around Kotzebue and near the Noatak Valley area. Much smoother due to the lighter winds here for southern Alaska. Light to isolated moderate turbulence there for the North Gulf Coast. And then kind of a increase in the turbulence out there. Light to isolated moderate here coming into as far east as Amchitka Island.